Hey, welcome back. Next Third, Best Third. I'm David Fenwick, your founder and host. And as so many of you know, Next Third, Best Third is about encouraging men to examine their lives and take honest appraisal and then live with intentionality. But a big part of it too is to reconnect men with their dreams, reconnect men with the vision that they had for their lives. Because so many times as we get older, in particular, we get caught up in the rigors of life, the doldrums of our careers. We end up finding ourselves complacent in those things that really gave us life, those things that brought us to life when we were younger have long been put away in a box in the attic, so to speak. Well, I'm here with Bryan Walker, my good friend. Welcome, Bryan.
Thank you.
And
it's good to be here.
I want Bryan to share something because at his age, he has reconnected with really an amazing dreams and goals that you had at a very young age.
Yeah.
Then you got busy with life.
It happened.
And then all of a sudden, here you are fulfilling this great calling on your life. So I'm just going to turn it over to you and just share with our audience, okay?
Okay. So I've got to say, I was raised as a military brat, grew up overseas. When I was 8, I would walk myself to Sunday school at the base chapel. And I knew I was doomed to be a preacher. Preachers were not, they didn't get to have any fun.
No.
You know? And so that sticks in my head. I remember walking on this island in the middle of the Mediterranean to chapel and thinking this. I didn't get in trouble like other kids. I didn't do things, it's like, oh man, I got to be a preacher. Fast forward, Dad leaves the military, go back to the ranch that he grew up on. Spent 4 years in high school doing vocational agriculture, raising livestock, digging fence post holes.
Where was this?
West Texas, Breckenridge.
Okay.
So here we are doing that. It's time for college. I go to college. I become a believer when I was in high school. And I'm in college. I'm an ag major. We're gonna do this. And somewhere in there, I've got to say that freshman year, the Holy Spirit began to speak to me about being a nurse. And I was like, excuse me?
So here's this rancher,
Yeah.
West Texas rancher, all of a sudden thinking, I'm going to be a nurse.
Yeah, this is not cool. At that time, only 3% of men were nurses.
Yeah.
And, it was just not, only time men were in nursing was either ER, ICU, or anesthesia. And so that was my introduction to a call of God into a career. So I go through college, I pick up my degree, and later in college, I hear him tell me that the mission field is where my calling is. And I was like, oh, okay.
So you're going to be a nurse, in the mission field's your call.
Yep.
Okay.
So 3 months after I graduate from college, I'm in Central America working third world healthcare. Did that, worked in the States, took all my vacation time, and I'd serve overseas, remote villages, mountaintops, you name it, I saw it. And so it was during that time that I knew I'm not called to live there. And I didn't really understand that. It's like, well, but if you're a missionary, you're supposed to go and stay, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And so I had my 1980s paradigm of what mission work was. Went from there, into the first couple of years of my career, realizing, okay, I need experience wherever God's going to take me. And was in a tremendous church in Dallas-Fort Worth. This was, kind of the charismatic renewal was happening. I'd grown up Protestant to Presbyterian to a Bible church to a Southern Baptist to this mutt that believes in the Holy Spirit because I know there's more. Mm-hmm. And so within this church, I knew missions is still my call, but how's this supposed to be expressed? He gave me a vision to where the goal is to be able to go out and serve the missionaries on the field, not necessarily to live with them or to live on the field, but to be able to go in, minister to them, and then move on to the next mission and to go from point to point. So here I am. This is my vision. In the midst of this, I was working in a hospital and praying with a buddy one night after work. And as we're there, my head is bowed and I have an open vision where I look down and there's a sword in my hand. And it's called a Scottish claymore. if you want to know. It's about 4 foot long, broadsword. And in front of me is Satan's head. And I swing the sword from right to left, and I take his head off. And then there are people to my left that are bound with chains, and I began to cut chains off of people. There's no question to me. I mean, this is God. This is the open vision. I mean,
Wow.
This is freaky. And I came away from that going, okay, but you got to train me, because I've seen too much sloppy ministry. I've seen too many people hurt by well-meaning folks. And so from there, it went on a journey of learning more, going through deliverance myself, but also learning, what does the word say? What lessons can we draw from there? So here I am, knowing that I'm called to work with people, to heal people, to focus towards missionaries. I end up marrying my wife. We go to England. We're trained with a ministry there for about 7 months in inner healing and deliverance. Come back to the States, and I'm like, okay, God, when when we went to England, we took all our belongings with us. We didn't plan to come back.
Wow. How long ago was this?
That was 1999.
Okay.
And so we get pregnant with our first child. We come back. First time my wife has ever wanted to be back in the U.S. We have a child, and so that's fine. We're going to end up going on the mission field after she's born. We've got a ministry in Ontario, Canada, that has invited us on staff, but they want us to wait a year, get used to being our parents. Okay, we're good with that. Well, you have one child, odds are you're going to have another.
That's right.
Amazing, within 3 months, we're pregnant again. And I remember talking with Beth, and I said, you need to do a pregnancy test. Yeah, you do. I had to go and buy one and get her to do it, because the thought of having another child so soon, it was just like, no, this is inconceivable. We got our second child. God's amazing. Mm-hmm. So you go into that, and at this point, we're living in East Texas, in Tyler. We're involved in the church community there, but really have a heart for ministry, but just couldn't find an expression for it. And so at this point, I'm recruited into a job in the Austin area. We move down here, take a job, and the job blows up within about 3 months. But I've got a mortgage. I've got 2 kids. And, oh, by the way, we're pregnant. They keep coming.
You have 4 total, right?
Pardon me?
You have 4?
Yes.
Yeah.
4 biological. I claim 2 more.
Okay.
So I find myself in the place where I've got a mortgage, I've got kids, I've got to take care of them. And so you just launch into the career. Okay. And you look for opportunities to be involved in ministry, but it's not what God's put in your heart. Mm-hmm. And what do you do with that? Right. And so you just put one foot in front of the other. And through this, I went through that time of depression and anxiety, and that's where God really birthed a compassion and empathy in me for the broken and the downcast.
Because you were broken and downcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a great upbringing. I mean, I had amazing parents, but nobody gets out of high school unscathed.
No.
Everybody has at least a backpack full of crap they need to get rid of.
That's right. That's right.
And I can take that further. But so here I am. God has to begin healing me in some areas that, I wasn't real crazy about being healed in. It meant I had to face the stigma of medication, because I'd tried everything else. We go from there to, all of a sudden we're pregnant again. We've got our 4th. Love my kids. I got to tell you, I mean, God has blessed me so much. Yeah. Beth wanted to have 5. I knew I was to have a son because God had told me the name of him. Once we had our son, which was number 3, Beth thought, we're done. He's not going to do any more. At that point, I was working in hospice, the closest thing to a pastoral role there is in nursing. Loved what I did because I could help people say the I love yous and the please forgive me on this side. Because nobody stands next to a casket and says, I'm sorry I asked your forgiveness. I wish I hadn't told you I loved you. Mm-hmm. No. If you can get those things said beforehand, you change the destiny of a family. Yeah. I went and attended a death at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Get home from that. There had been a young couple. It was their grandparent that had passed away, and they had an infant there. And I'm just watching this, and God just speaks to my heart. And I come home, and Beth wakes up and says, everything okay? I was like, yeah. I said, you want to have another? she was just dumbfounded. Can we talk about it in the morning? So we ended up with a fourth. Ian is an amazing young man. I know God's put him in our life.
Yeah.
And you can't beat that. So we go along, everything's happening, and the goal has been at this point, okay, my heart's in counseling and ministry to individuals, but graduate school, I mean, how do you go to school? How do you support a family, pay a mortgage? How do you do all the stuff and be a good parent?
Right.
Not to mention be a good husband. And so eventually, youngest is about 13, end up going back to graduate school, working on my master's. And
Which I've got to say, I got to interject this. That is so commendable because it's so hard. Most guys would face that and sit there and just say it's over. They would just, because it is such a tough thing to step in when in a busy life.
Yeah.
Adding that on. So anyway, I just admire you for that.
Well, God's grace. Go back to graduate school. Everything is going good. I'm in about a 2-year program, and COVID shutdown happens. I'm chief nursing officer at a hospital. I'm working my butt off, going to school, juggling the balls, and then all of a sudden I end up with COVID. And I've been exposed to it for a year and a half, but all of a sudden I get it. Well, I don't just get it. I get the good variety. I end up in the hospital. I spent 8 days in the hospital. I'm told I was extremely close to being put on a ventilator. And I didn't realize it at the time. I just knew that I was sick. Never been in a hospital in my life. I was running marathons before this, David.
Wow.
I had 3 in the bag. And then here I am, I can't breathe. That just took me out. And, I come home from the hospital. I spent 4.5 months on oxygen at home, went back to work carrying a portable concentrator so I could go back to work and take care of my family. Finished graduate school in that semester, had a great set of professors that said, we will get you there, don't worry. They scolded me because I logged on from the hospital, and they're like, get off, get well, we'll take care of you. But I get through this, I get my degree, and I start doing the work of where my heart is. And I love what I do, but it's like, okay, I guess the only thing I'm here for is just to make money and save it so that my wife's taken care of for when I die. And I've got to say, when I was in the hospital with COVID, I came to a place where I was like, I'm okay if I die. I wasn't okay for my family. I wasn't okay for my sons. But I knew I was going to be okay, and it didn't scare me. So here I am. I've got my degree. I'm doing my work, and I guess my life's over. I'm at this point, I don't know, 59, and I'm thinking this is it. And so I just kind of walk along with that, and we'll figure it out. But the things that were in my heart, I guess that was a lie. I guess God didn't tell me the truth. About a year ago, God brought to my recall that, and at this point, my wife is on staff with a ministry called the Oaks, that they're all they do is work with missionaries. They provide mental health services to them. I'm invited to go to a conference in Switzerland and teach and do evaluations and work with missionaries. And all of a sudden, God reminds me of what he said to me back in college in my early 20s. It's real. You didn't lie to me.
No.
You did call me to this. It was in the last couple days that I realized, when I was in college, a student leader asked me if I could pick a Bible study, what would it be on? I said, I want one on God's 50-year plan for my life. And he, being a wise graduate student, said, okay. And that was the end of it. A couple years later, this is percolating in my spirit, and God speaks to me and just says, if I told you where you were supposed to be in 50 years, you would do everything you could to get there as fast as you could, and you would miss every experience along the way that would make you into the man you need to be then.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So I look back here at almost 63 years of age, and I see where a call, I mean, I'm raising beef in West Texas. I'm digging post holes. I mean, going to nursing to get out of digging post holes is enough. I mean, that in itself sells itself. But I become a nurse, which is weird. Just this whole journey of where God's taking me. And then I'm looking back just this week and realize if I had not gone through my crisis of depression and anxiety and having to pursue treatment, I wouldn't have the passion for what I'm called to do, to be able to empathize, to be able to walk with people, to be able to be a paraclete, to walk alongside them through their own moments, through their own dark days.
You know, we always say this, Bryan, is that our struggles and our pain and our brokenness and all that in the past doesn't disqualify us, but it uniquely qualifies us.
Yes.
Because out of that, look what's happened.
Yeah. So here I am. I'm almost 63. I'm doing, I don't have a bad day at work. I mean,
So great.
Even my wife can struggle with the fact that the hours I work sometimes, but she knows I come home for the first time in my career, my married life, and I love what I do. I love the fact that I'm able to touch people's lives, to be able to encourage them, to help them find a way forward, to help them deal with the garbage in their life, to help them see the love of God.
So good. And it's measurable because we've known each other for 8 years now,
Yeah.
I guess it is. And I remember seeing the Bryan who was pretty forlorn, you know?
Yeah.
And I see you now, whenever I see you now, you got all this life on you. And I'm like going, man, look what the Lord has done,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, he's amazing. And, you know, I mean, I'm in process of transitioning to a full-time private practice from leaving the corporate world because corporate doesn't allow me to take time and go and serve.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you need to plan this 6 months in advance and no, you don't have enough time off for this, so you can't do that.
Yeah.
No, private practice allows me to customize my time to meet the needs of my patients, but also those that I'm called to serve overseas. And even now, I get the privilege of consulting and, you know, missionaries that need some guidance, that need to be able to access local mental health in the country they're in, but they need somebody to help them understand what's going on in their body, help them understand the doctor wants to give me this, but is that okay? Help them understand where they're at. And, you know, I mean, on any given Friday night, you'll find me at 10 o'clock logging on with somebody in, you know, Africa or the Middle East, talking through things with them, and we'll spend a couple hours together and, you know, see them be able to be encouraged as they're taking their next step forward. Because the ability, if you think back, even 10 years ago, if you were on the mission field, you had someone that was over you in the field. If you acknowledged you were having a problem, if you were having a crisis of faith, if you were struggling with anxiety or depression, if your kid was having a problem, your marriage was in trouble, if anything came up, you get pulled and get sent back to the States. You know, the person that should be your support is also the one that controls your future. You've spent 10 years investing in a culture. You've spent 3 years learning this language. You're loving these people. You've got connection. Why are we pulling you? Why aren't we offering you the support you need where you are? And so Oaks, along with other ministries, has been able to reach out and help support these people, help them process through things.
Yeah.
One of the beautiful things with Oaks is they'll do conferences overseas. And part of the way I view this, I think they view it this way as well, but if you're a missionary and you come back stateside, your supporters are going, you came and you didn't see me?
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can't say, well, I came back to deal with some mental health issues or counseling. No. So Oaks will do a conference overseas. They'll be able to have missionaries come in, do some training with them, give them a respite, be able to do some counseling and some ministry to them. They're not back in the U.S., but it's totally accepted for them to cross a border and to get some help.
You know, as you're sharing it comes to me that, you know, a lot of our followers and listeners don't really have a grid for missionaries, right?
Yeah.
They're not necessarily Christians or have any concept of that. So just real quick, if you can, what are some, you know, missionaries, these are these people who've committed their lives to go and invest in other cultures and other areas of the world. But what are some of the problems that you have to address with them?
Isolation is really hard. Depending upon whether you're on a team, whether you're single, whether you're married, you've got the issues of being away from family. You may be, I've got some folks I've talked to that they haul water from a well. They have a generator they can run a couple hours a day. This is their life, and they're there and they're serving people. They're demonstrating the love of Christ to these people, whether they're working with a feeding program or whether they're teaching them agriculture or whatever it may be. They've chosen to sacrifice their life this way, to serve. So the isolation can be really hard. Missionaries that get married, here it is, you have kids. What happens if your kid has a mental health issue? What happens if your kid's suicidal? Or if you have a child and they're autistic? What do you do? Do you have to give up the call that God has on your life? Why? We can do a whole lot electronically, and being able to provide education and support and help these folks process through where they're at. Sometimes it's helping them, more clearly discern the voice of God for where they're at. Sometimes it's the fact that, there's conflict in their life, conflict maybe with people they're working with, and they need somebody to help them process through it. Maybe it's needing to find a way to forgive. The needs, everything you encounter in the U.S., it's there. It's just done usually without running water, maybe, without electricity,
Right.
and without somebody that you can lean on.
Right. And it's interesting because, it's easy nowadays to bemoan the evils of technology, but look at this, without technology, you're over there, you're able to do these on Zoom and things like that and really help from a distance.
Yeah, 4,000 or 5,000 miles away.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're like the poster boy for next third, best third. You're facing the next third of your life is really going to be the best third of your life.
Yeah.
So what lies ahead? What's some of your dreams or goals going forward?
So about a year ago, my wife and I started putting together a bucket list of things we want to do before we die. There's some places we'd like to visit. I'm going to Portugal in January to minister at a conference. My wife and I serve as foreign missions pastors for our local church. We do a lot of supportive missionaries there. May have an opportunity to go and check in on a couple of those. Really, I just love doing what I do. And I got to say, the fact that I can do things over Zoom, time zones may mess me up, but I could be sitting on a beach in Hawaii and seeing patients in Texas.
Come on. Let's do that.
I'm game.
Yeah.
I'm game. And Hawaii is on the list.
That's great.
So is Israel.
That's great.
So
That's great.
I'm along for a ride to see what God's going to do. There's a lot of living to do still.
That's exactly right. I love this, and I thank you for sharing. And guys, this is what it's all about. Here's a man in his early 60s who is living the best years of his life. Yeah. He's had great life in the past, but he's living the very best years of his life. He's not complacent. He's reinventing himself. He's thinking about how he can affect lives and invest in others. And this is how you have your next third, your best third, right, Bryan?
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And you don't, we give up on dreams.
Yeah.
How about stepping back and going, okay, what's been in my heart?
That's right.
If I could do it and be guaranteed success, what would I do? For those that are believers, have words been spoken over you that are from God, but you're waiting to see how does this play out? Mm-hmm. Pulling those notes you've got out and looking at, okay, so what has been spoken? Where do I see life?
Yeah.
And being able to dig back into that. I end up treating a number of individuals in the early 20s, and they feel like they have to get their career figured out. Oh my gosh, I've got to do this for the rest of my life. I'm like, no, you don't.
No, you don't. Not at all.
This is like maybe your 20-year plan.
That's right.
It's nothing to have 3 careers.
Oh, no.
I went back to school at 57, I think.
Yeah. Who does that?
People that are crazy.
Yeah. You're a little bit crazy, but look
yeah.
at that. And that's the thing. So you're talking about, think about what you wanted to do maybe back in the day, some of your dreams. I say this, I want men to daydream again, Mm-hmm. When I was a boy, I was scolded for being a daydreamer. Well, daydreaming's great because it's intentional.
Yes.
You're intentionally partnering with what ifs.
Yes.
What could this be like? I know that for me, I was kind of caught by surprise when dreams came back up, some of my boyhood dreams. And I had forgotten about them. And then just in the last few years, all of a sudden I realized, I said, I always wanted, well, really in the last year, I always wanted to be a talk show host, a Johnny Carson kind of thing. And now I host a podcast.
Yep.
And then the other thing I want to do is be a Hollywood actor. And as you know, I'm taking acting classes, which is phenomenal. I'm loving it. And it's coming to reality. I'm actually going to be in movies.
Fantastic.
I'm going to. Don't know when and how, but it's going to happen. So anyways, this is good. Thank you so much for coming on and
Thanks for
sharing
having
and
me.
inspiring me and our listeners. So if you all would do me a favor, if you would share this with your friends, if you would like, subscribe, comment, all that helps the algorithm. Our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by May 31st. We're over halfway there, which is in and of itself a miracle in 1 year to reach that. And it's because of you. It's because you're sharing this content. It's because of great friends and guests like Bryan. Thanks for being here.
Sure. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.